Good afternoon, this is Spirit Journey. Today is June 23rd, 2020, and the time is now 3:40 p.m. I came across another video. This video is on a man by the name of James Juanillo. He is a resident in San Francisco, and he was doing a stencil, a Black Lives Matter stencil in chalk. And he was stopped by a white couple, and he had videotaped the encounter. It's very reminiscent of the video regarding a lady by the name of Amy Cooper, who was against a man by the name of Christian Cooper. They're not related, they just have the same last name. I did a video on them. The woman, Amy Cooper, had threatened to call the police and specifically say that she would let them know that it's an African American man threatening her and her dog. And that wasn't the case. It was done deliberately like that, said deliberately like that, to kind of scare him, because it's understood when you call the cops on a black person how oftentimes the cops are aggressive with the black person. So in this case, this man here, James Juanillo, had an encounter a week ago today on Tuesday. And so what I'm going to do here, I will be sharing different videos. They're not my videos, but they're videos that individuals have put up pertaining to this case. And I'm going to talk about how I feel about how it impacts me emotionally. It upset me a lot, and I started to cry earlier today in my room because it frustrated me, and it's an awful feeling. And it's like, where could you hide? If you're a black person, where could you just live and not feeling harassed or feel like you have to make an excuse and explain yourself to someone who is inviting themselves in your life beyond your comfort. So I'm going to also share how it could have turned out. And that's, I think, the real issue why I'm so edgy about it. Even though for him, Mr. Juanillo, that it ended out okay, but for some of us, it may not turn out okay. So it still makes me very fearful, okay? So James Juanillo, he is a man of Filipino ancestry. He's a first-generation American, and he gives his account. This video that I will be playing first is by NBC Bay Area. He gives an interview. So I will be playing that interview to give you background information of the event before I actually show you the actual video that Mr. Juanillo took. Luckily, he took it. Okay, so here I go.
Juanillo, like the very common name Juan with ILLO in Spanish, the L's are silent.
And James, James?
Yeah, James.
Go back.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start here. This was Tuesday. What happened?
So, I had kind of an amazing week with people in my life who had been rethinking their relationship around people of color and their own kind of racism. And one of them in particularly inspired me to write it on our house, which I've lived in 2002, and as you can see, has quite a nice view of the park. So people who are going to come up on this main street, who are going to lounge in the park, are going to see a Black Lives Matter message in Pacific Heights, which I think it's important that this not just be in the Castro or in the Soma, that it be in the Marina and Laurel Heights and Presidio Heights and Pacific Heights, and where people who need to be woke can read it and see that this is okay to have a statement like this in a neighborhood like this. And what the video on Twitter doesn't show is the 95% of residents and neighbors who, while I was putting this up, gave me a fist or made eye contact and a smile or just flat out said thank you. Just because Lisa Alexander gets all the attention and Robert because they decided to police me with their Gestapo, what are you doing tactics. Despite that, trust me, this neighborhood is in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement.
So you're out here. This is your house.
It's my home, but it's not my property. I've been renting with my husband in this house since 2002. We are a gay family and a commune. So when Lisa came up to me and used, I know the owner, that was already wrong. It's owners. And if she was a neighbor of mine in that house or in that house, I would know her, you know. And so I gave her the benefit of the doubt, and I tried to let her know that it's possible that a person of color lives here, and that this is possibly not legal. In fact, I told her clearly, I'm not doing anything illegal. And if you're certain that I'm committing a crime, then call men with guns on this person with a chalk.
So okay, so you're out here chalking Black Lives Matter. You've lived here since 2002. You are a resident here. You're chalking it on the front of your place. How did she approach? How did this whole thing start?
Well, so what was funny was, I write about lies. I'm sitting here, and Robert comes up to me, and I have earphones on and my mask like this, and he comes up to me and says, "You're defacing private property." And I put my earphones back in and my mask back on, but I don't put my phone away. I don't put my phone by my back pocket. I leave it out, anticipating that he's just not going to leave me alone. When I finish the R, literally that's when Lisa takes point in this engagement, and she starts asking me about defacing this private property. And that's why I came up and started hitting record. I was already primed for another racist encounter, and they had telegraphed their intentions. And you could tell because he had his camera up, videotaping me. And I'm sure they have great videotape, by the way, of me putting this up, of me committing the crime.
Can just put on pause for a moment before I forget. See, he did have, okay, I'm wondering whether or not, because he had earphones on, and maybe he didn't hear them initially, and maybe the couple got irritated, thought that he was blowing them off. See, if the guy has a mask on and earplugs underneath, not earplugs, you know, the things that are in his ears, so they may not be able to see that. And so maybe it might have escalated. I mean, I'm just speculating, but again, I don't know. But if he had music playing and someone's trying to talk to him, and if they think they're being blown off, you know, that might have escalated it, okay? And then being accused that he's defacing, okay? So even though he's using chalk, okay, chalk is very, you know, washes out with water, okay?
I would love to see that because I had my earphones in and I was kind of
that's
popping around. I'm sure I looked kind of like a crazy person to them.
Okay.
And that I gave them all the rope they needed to hang themselves in terms of riding that racial bias right off a cliff. I gave them their outs, you know? If it was okay if I lived here, yeah. And you don't know if I lived here? Oh no, you do not live here. And once that lie happened, Robert put his phone away. He wanted to exit.
Oh,
Lisa just had to keep on going with it. And then she knew, in this environment, she knows calling the cops on a person of color for a perceived crime could result in death. She called the cops anyway. And they came up that street. The cops came in 2 minutes.
that's interesting. Okay, he's saying himself. The area is predominantly white, I presume. It's a very expensive area, and to say that a person of color, or let's say specifically a black person, vandalizing, that's a really sticky situation, and potentially very frightening for him.
Right after she left in that video, left. So the reason I was, and I don't recommend this for any other person of color, other protester, do not dare your Karens to call the cops. The reason I was able and felt confident to do that is because I actually know all the cops in my area because I've lived here 18 years. And as recently as last year, we had a fire here in a house next door, and they blocked off this whole entire area except for the owners of these two houses, and every cop in my precinct was here blocking off this major artery, and I'm giving them egress to their, and so I'm sure they kind of took note that a person of color lives in this house because I recognized him, he recognized me. He said the cops drove up, made a show of responding, came across here, and then said, "Wait, you live here?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Great stenciling work." Didn't ask for my ID, didn't even get out of the car, and he drove off.
Right there.
Okay. He's accurate in saying it's very good that he mentioned that he doesn't advise most people to dare others to call the cops on them because he felt confident. But sometimes you can feel as confident as you want, but maybe someone called in sick that day, and someone who usually doesn't do that that neighborhood, and come over, and let's say he has his earphones on, like before, and do the same thing, ignore him, and then eventually engage. Anything could have happened to him, and anything. So I'm going to proceed.
That minute. And I know psychologically that Lisa and Robert, people like that don't call the police and then walk off. They want to see the resolution. They want to see me get beat up and get arrested, and they wanted to face my message. So I knew they were lurking here somewhere, watching the police come and then leave. And so I come inside, and I stand right there in the turret, overlooking the Black Lives Matter message, and not 2 minutes later, they come here, and I knock at them from inside the window, and wave at them. I give them a nice wave. And at that point, she knows that I'm a resident, and I live in this house. Instead of not walking up to those front stairs and ringing the doorbell and saying, "I was wrong, sorry about that, I really thought I was doing a good deed," they took off running down the hill.
Wow.
How do you see it? Do you see it as they saw you as a person of color, possibly in their opinion, defacing some property that must not have been yours, or you had no tie to, and they felt they needed to just, step in and
Well, it's funny. I think a lot of people, the big question is, why would they not mind their own business? What was their interest in stopping this? And interestingly enough, I think the one thought that sounded the most reasonable to me was they think I'm devaluing the neighborhood property values. That if this message was ubiquitous around Pacific Heights, that their personal investment would be less. That this wasn't just privilege, it was about economics. And that makes sense to me. you know?
So,
And that's what I
have
think
you
would really
ever
happen.
seen these people before?
Never. Never. And I'm a dog walker. My business is Pack Heights. It's literally named after the neighborhood. It's a play on Pacific Heights. I'm in all these buildings, all around Lafayette Park, every day, all day, for the last 12 years. My neighbors know me. My neighbors love me. I love them. Her just standing there and saying, I know who lives here, and that they wouldn't appreciate that, rang so false to anyone who knows anyone about me or this neighborhood that people on the internet could just see that part and see that it might be a lie. And this is John Newmeyer. John, do you want to be on the news? Sure. This is the owner of the house, my housemate, and he supports Black Lives Matter as well.
Do you know this woman in the video? Do you know her?
No, he does not know her.
No. But she says in the video, I know the owner.
And again, one owner, it's two owners, it's two residences. The very top residence is a completely different, so even the nomenclature she used was wrong, you know?
Right. Do you think that how do you think she saw you?
I think she saw me as a person of color who is tagging someone else's private property. That's
Bingo.
how she stated it.
Bingo.
And I just want to clarify that wall, often there are children who are drawing our house in little, will draw on chalk art on that wall. And nobody is accusing them of defacing property. No one is accusing them of a crime. And the fact of the matter is, I don't need to live here for her to stop. If I was just a person of color doing this, forget the fact that I actually live here, that's not a crime. That's not vandalism. And she had no right, even if I was just a random person trying to enlighten the hood, she still had no right to call men with guns on chalk art.
How did this whole thing make you feel?
It makes me feel like we all need to fight. We all need to fight. And when you see racism, even if it's a little polite, very respectably gift-wrapped racism, speak your truth. Don't let it go. It's time.
Wow. I thought that was really powerful. Really powerful. And so now I'm going to show you the video that he took on the encounter with that white couple.
Is this your property? Hi, I'm asking you if this is your property.
Why are you asking?
Because it's private property.
Because it's private property,
So,
sir.
are you defacing private property or is this your property? You're free to express your
No,
opinion,
we
but not on people's property.
Okay.
absolutely,
Sure.
just respectfully.
Sure.
So we're just saying, absolutely, your signs and everything, and that's good. This is not the way to do it.
Okay.
It's private property.
But if I did live here and it was my property, this would be absolutely fine.
If it,
And you don't know if I live here or if this is my property.
We actually do know. That's why we're asking.
Oh, really? Because you live here, right? You said so.
Because we know the person who does that.
Oh, okay. Then I suggest you call him or call the police. Or, because you're accusing me of a crime, correct?
What I'm asking you is why are you...
And I'm not answering you.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
So your choices are to call the cops if you believe I'm calling a crime, and I will more than be happy to talk to them.
Okay, thank you.
What's your name again?
I'm Lisa.
Lisa, what's your last name?
What is your name?
What's your name? I asked yours, Lisa. What's your name, sir? What's your last name, sir?
What is your first name, sir?
I'm not answering, I'm not talking to you, you're talking to me. I'm asking you the questions.
Well, we're not doing anything illegal.
Neither am I.
Actually, you
You
are.
are
Because it's
actually.
Really?
private property.
Oh, okay, well then, call the cops.
We will do.
Lisa and Robert. I'll be right here.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Bye. And that, people, is why Black Lives Matter.
Okay, that is really powerful. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to play it back and give my comments.
Is this your property? Hi, I'm asking you if this is your property.
Why are you asking?
Because
Well-
it's private property.
Because it's private property,
So,
sir.
are you defacing private property or is it?
Okay. First, they're not waiting for an answer. So this is private property. You're about him defacing. Now, if it's private property, it would be important to know if he's the owner of that property, or if he lives there and has permission to do that. But that didn't come about. So they're already suspicious, and they consider what's being done to be defacing. So whether he lives there or not, she decided that it is defacing. So even if it is his property, because defacing is defacing. If you want to deface your own property, that's their business. So she's already labeling what's being done as being defacing. So it's a judgment call.
You're free to express your
No,
opinion.
Okay. Why is he asking you're free to state your opinion? It wasn't anything about opinions. What these two, this couple wants to find out is, who is this man? Is this his property? Because he's doing something that they think is defacing property. And as James has poetically said in the prior video, that it's about making a neighborhood, what do you call it, tagging a neighborhood. And to tag the neighborhood would be devaluing. It's all about devaluing the neighborhood, and that's what they don't like. And I would tend to agree with that. What James deducts in this incident.
But not on people's property.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Sure.
Just respectfully.
sure.
So we're just saying, absolutely, your signs and everything, and that's good. This is not the way to do it.
Okay.
It's private property.
But if I did live here and it was my property, this would be absolutely fine.
If it,
And you don't know if I live here or if this is my property.
We actually do know. That's what.
Okay. That's where I have a real issue with her. She says that she does know, but you notice she puts her finger on her chin. Why is she doing that? So this is a new technique when you're lying. So if you see someone pointing to their chin, pointing towards their mouth, and it's a Karen type person, this is how they lie. Okay, I would not, if I was just walking by and just listening, I would think, oh wow, she knows the owner. I would be scared, right? Oh wow, she knows the owner and going to get this man in trouble. Because why would someone lie? Why would this woman lie? So it's educating me on the technique of people who lie on other people, to scare you, to make them think that they're important and that they are a position of power over others, even though it's none of their business. Okay, so pointing to the chin, and look what else.
Oh, really? Because you live here, right? You said so.
Because we know the person who does it.
Oh, okay.
So
Then
it's all
I suggest you call them
not
or
disagreeing with
call the
you.
police.
Okay, so now she's like trying to smooth it out. So she puts her hand to her chest, smoothing it out that she's not being combative. But she is.
Or
Why call the police?
because you're accusing me of a crime, correct?
What I'm asking you is, why are you?
And I'm not answering you.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
So your choices are to call the cops if you believe I'm calling a crime, and I will more than be happy to talk to them.
Okay, thank you.
What's your name again?
I'm Lisa.
Lisa, what's your last name?
What is your name?
What's your name? I asked yours, Lisa. What's your name, sir?
Okay, she just judged him again and says, I'm not committing a crime. So she doesn't have to give her full name. So it's suggesting that she thinks that man, Juanillo, is committing a crime, and that's why he has to give his full name, at least his first name, but he doesn't want to give it, and it's his right to not want to give his name. He's doing what he's doing on the property that he lives on.
What's your last name, sir?
What is your first name, sir?
I'm not answering. I'm not talking to you. You're talking to me. I'm asking you the questions.
Well, we're not doing anything illegal.
Neither am I.
Actually, you
You
are.
are
Because
actually.
it's
Really?
property.
Oh, okay. Well then, call.
Okay, so Robert just slandered James. Robert said that he's committing a crime. Okay, so now they're acting like they're policemen, a jury, and he's not. They see, initially they have a valid concern if they live in this neighborhood, and if they're concerned as any person in the neighborhood, you want to watch over your neighbors, and you expect your neighbors to watch over your property too. So they want to know, hey, does he live here? If he lives there, okay, he's doing what he's doing. But if he doesn't live there, then that it's a problem. Okay, but it is a problem because they decided that he is a criminal.
The cops. Lisa and Robert. I'll be right here. Bye. And that, people, is why Black Lives Matter. That's Karen, and she's calling the cops. And this is going to be really funny. Because she knows the people who live here personally.
So, I'm sorry. Wow. See that? She knows them personally. That is funny. Okay, we learned in the other video that the owner does not know her, but she's lying and says she does. See, if you really think you're doing justice in a situation, just be honest about it. Say, look, I don't know the owners, but hey, I just want to make sure that you're not doing this and that, and destroying the property and devaluing the neighborhood. I mean, at least I would have been honest. Okay, so now why I'm doing this video is because what could happen if you live on a property, you might be renting or owning a property, but let's say the police don't know you as they know James. This is what could happen, and I did feature this type of video with this person here a couple of weeks ago, and I felt it important to really emphasize what could happen and why it makes me still feel very afraid.
Civil rights and racial profiling. A 58-year-old black man was arrested at his own home by police looking for a suspected robber. The story grabbed national headlines because the man in question is one of the nation's most prominent African-American scholars. Our national correspondent Jim Axelrod has more.
This is not how Henry Louis Gates is used to being seen in public, handcuffed and being taken away by the police.
Will it lead to the mediocrats changing the subject?
This is perhaps America's best-known African-American intellectual and director of Harvard's African-American Research Institute. Gates was arrested for disorderly conduct last Thursday at his home in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Gates arrived here at his home early last Thursday afternoon after a long plane flight from China. He arrived to find his front door jammed, so he and his driver tried to push their way through. A passerby in this neighborhood where there's been a rash of break-ins called the police. The sergeant who responded found Gates in his foyer. In a police report, the sergeant says Gates refused to step outside, asking why. Because I'm a black man in America? Gates showed his Harvard ID, but became angry, he says, when the sergeant refused to provide his name and badge number. The sergeant says he did, twice, but that Gates was belligerent. After repeatedly warning Gates to calm down, the sergeant says, he arrested him.
You had two human beings that were reacting to a set of circumstances, and unfortunately, at the time, cooler heads did not prevail.
In an interview with the Washington Post today, Gates called his arrest outrageous, how poor black men across the country are treated every day. Gates said the sergeant should apologize. This guy had this whole narrative in his head. Black guy breaking and entering. Harvard's had its share of racial problems recently, appointing an independent commission last fall to study how the university could create a more welcoming environment for African Americans.
Even though the charge was dropped, I know for me it still leaves a pretty bad taste in the mouth.
The charges against Gates were dismissed today. Despite his criticism of the police, Gates and the Cambridge PD issued a joint statement calling the incident, quote, regrettable, one that shouldn't demean the reputation of either side. Jim Axelrod, CBS News.
Okay, so you see what happened there. That he's in his own home. Well, they do bust in to enter the house, but my concern was that once the police arrived, and once he showed the police his ID, that he lived there, and explained what happened, the police officer still wanted him to come outside. I couldn't find the video where he explained more in detail. He was being, Professor Gates was being interviewed in his home and demonstrating what happened. That I cannot find that video, but he was saying that while in the house and showing his ID, the cops still wanted Professor Gates to come with them outside. They know once he goes outside, the police knows once they get him outside, they could do anything with him because it's in the cops' jurisdiction outside of the house. And Gates knew that. He didn't want to go outside with them to discuss why he's in his own house. So it escalated, and so you had two heads want to win a situation. One is saying, hey, this is my home. You're questioning me in my own home, even though I showed my key, my address, So the next thing I want to show you is the actual phone. Oh, let's see. This person. This is the person that, maybe I should show the call. I'm going to do this one first. Okay, this is the 911 call that was made on Professor Gates. Well, on what was going on. Okay, and you make your own assessment. It's a short clip.
Hi, I'm actually in street in Cambridge, and the house number is 17. Where Street?
Okay, ma'am, your cell phone cut out. What's the address again?
Sorry, it says 7 Ware, that's W-A-R-E, Street.
The emergency is at 7 Ware Street, right?
No, it's 17, I'm sorry, some other woman is talking next to me, but it's 1717 Ware Street.
What's the phone number you're calling me from?
I'm calling you from my cell phone number.
Tell me exactly what happened.
I don't know what's happening. I just had an older woman standing here, and she had noticed two gentlemen trying to get in a house at that number, 17 Ware Street. And they kind of had to barge in, and they broke the screen door, and they finally got in. And when I had looked, I went further closer to the house a little bit after the gentlemen were already in the house. I noticed two suitcases. So I'm not sure if these are two individuals who actually work there, who live there.
You think they might have been breaking?
I don't know, because I have no idea. I just
Do you think the possibility might have been there? What do you mean by barged in? Did they kick the door in?
No, they were pushing the door in, like the screen part of the front door was kind of like cut.
How did the door itself with the lock?
I didn't see a key or anything, because I was a little bit away from the door, but I did notice that they
and what do these
pushed
suitcases have to do with anything?
I don't know, I'm just saying that's what I saw. I just showing it.
That they broke into?
No, they're just the first floor. I don't even think that it's an apartment. It's 17 Ware Street. It's a house. It's a yellow house. Number 17. I don't know if they lived there and they just had a hard time with their key, but I did notice that they kind of used their shoulder to try to barge in. and they got in. I don't know if they had a key or not because I couldn't see from my angle. But, you know, when I looked a little closely, that's when I saw...
Hispanic. Are they still in the house?
They're still in the house, I believe, yeah.
White, black, or Hispanic?
Well, there were two larger men. One looked kind of Hispanic, but I'm not really sure. And the other one entered, and I didn't see what he looked like at all. I just saw her from a distance, and this older woman was worried, thinking someone's breaking in someone's house, they've been barging in, and she interrupted me, and that's when I had noticed. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have noticed it at all, to be honest with you. So I was just calling because she was a concerned neighbor, I guess.
Okay. Are you standing outside?
I'm standing outside, yeah.
I'll push on my way. You can meet them when they get there. What's your name?
Yeah, my name is...
All right, we're on the way.
Okay. All right, I guess I'll wait. Thanks.
Okay. So she's not really, I mean, I felt it was just a neutral statement. When you see something, or I should say the person that she's with sees something, and she's encouraged to call for that other person or what they see. But you're being a neighbor, you see something, you want to have someone check it out. So, but this is what happened to her. This is the person that made that phone call.
Thank you for being here and giving me this opportunity to speak with you today. I was not planning to make a public statement, but after the media managed to reach my mom, I thought I'd better speak for myself. The criticism at first was so painful for me and difficult. I was frankly afraid to say anything. People called me racist and said I caused all the turmoil that followed, and some even said threatening things that made me fear for my safety. I knew the truth, but I didn't speak up right away because I did not want to add to the controversy. After the tapes came out, there was so much public support. I felt better about the idea of speaking publicly, and then when my mom made her comments, I figured it was time for me to say a few words. First, I would like to thank my wonderful husband for his support and love throughout this ordeal. I would like to thank my parents, as people around the country were saying and thinking the worst things of me. My family knew the truth, and their support made all the difference.
She's shaking.
I am proud to have been raised by two loving parents who instilled in me values including love one another, be kind to strangers, and do not judge people based on race, ethnicity, or any other feature other than their character. I am also proud to be a member of the Cambridge community, and while I do not live there, I have worked for more than 15 years. Cambridge is a wonderful place, and when I was called racist and I was a target of scorn and ridicule because of the things I never said. The criticism hurt me as a person, but it also hurt the community of Cambridge. Now that the tapes are out, I hope people can see that I try to be careful and honest with my words. It never occurred to me that the way I reported what I saw be analyzed by an entire nation. But so many people have responded with words of support. I hope now that the truth of the tapes will help heal the Cambridge community as much as it has helped to restore my reputation.
Okay. That's what could happen. I thought the 911 call was a sincere call. If you don't know what's going on, you don't know the people. If someone was breaking into my place or something, you watch over each other. So here she's explaining that she was vilified for making a call and people saying things without even hearing the tape and called her a racist. Her 911 call was not racist in my opinion. It wasn't biased. And again, she didn't even know that, she didn't specify, again, she doesn't know who was both parties. She doesn't even say that he was a black person. There's something else I wanted to show. But yeah, I feel her pain. See, this call, this 911 caller, what if you see a situation? You don't really know what's going on, but you are concerned. And you make your best judgment on a situation, on how to handle it. So you say, okay, let me just call 911. They'll figure it out. And you don't have any biasness in your heart. So it could make people afraid to call 911. Because if you call 911, you could be perceived as a bigot or a racist if the person that's being called upon is a person of color. So what do you do? What do you do? Sometimes people might be clowning around outside and they might play rough and they just, having fun. Someone else seeing it, is it just having fun? Are they just having fun, or is this something serious? So you don't want to call, because if you call, then you may be perceived as a racist or a bigot. And let's say that it was an innocent matter, but the cops overreact. And in Professor Gates' experience, even though they discovered that it was his where he lived, it wasn't enough, and egos got in the way on both sides. But I understand with Gates, Professor Gates, because that is his home. So again, it's you feel that your manhood or your womanhood is being violated, that you have to explain yourself, and it's humiliating. So you can get arrested. You can get beat up. So spooky. I think it was something else I wanted to show. Okay. Yeah, also, this incident happened, this year would be 11 years. This whole incident with Professor Gates. Okay, and as you see, this other video here is also by CBS, and the one before was also by CBS. These are not my videos, but I'm sharing it. Okay, and so it was blowing up, this situation, and I think I'm just going to say it, how I really feel what happened with Professor Gates. I found out about the incident maybe 5 years ago when I saw this video on YouTube. I felt badly for him, but I felt the sentiment with the videos that I saw on this incident that he really wasn't liked, Professor Gates, because he is perceived as being an uppity type black fellow. He has his doctorate. I think is the director of the African American Studies at Harvard University. And so there's jealousies amongst people within the black community, the richer blacks versus the not so rich blacks. And so I think his plight really kind of went on deaf ears. And that's how I really feel. And so it was just really swept under the rug. But also, as I was going to say, this is during the President Obama's administration. And so if Obama reaches out to Professor Gates, then President Obama would be perceived as sticking up for black people. But then if he, and then whites aren't going to like him anymore as a president. But then if he sides with the cops, he's going to be an enemy within the black community. So he's in the middle of all this melee. I think Professor Gates was treated harshly and emasculated. That was the attempt. They're going to emasculate him, arrest him from his own home because he insisted that the police officer present his badge number and full name. Yeah, it's no grounds of what he says to a cop inside his own house. The cop should have just left. Okay, so I'm going to show you this video on how it played out. And it's called the Beer Summit. So if any of you hear to have a beer summit, this is what they're alluding to, this event with the former President Obama, Professor Gates, and the arresting officer.
Scholar Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Cambridge Police Sergeant James Crowley have accepted President Obama's invitation to talk about Gates' arrest over a beer at the White House. CBS News correspondent Bianca Strolizano is in Cambridge, Massachusetts with the latest. Bianca, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Russ. Definitely a sign of things getting back to normal. Just about 15 minutes ago here at the Cambridge Police Department, Sergeant James Crowley slowly walked back into work. He was in full uniform. He was smiling, drinking a cup of coffee, and he waved and said, no comment. So definitely a sense of things moving on. The controversy surrounding Henry Gates and Sergeant James Crowley calmed down over the weekend, and the two men laid low.
Tired, very tired. So I'm going to work now.
Saturday, Gates accepted the president's offer for a beer at the White House, a chance for all three men to meet, saying, I am pleased to use my experience as a teaching moment. I would be happy to oblige. Crowley has said he's waiting for formal details. The future sit-down made for buzz on Sunday news shows.
He wants them to both come to the White House. Is that, in fact, going to happen?
I expect that it will happen, yes. I think the president sees this as an opportunity to get dialogue going.
Sergeant Crowley told the president he was game, and I've read that Professor Gates is the same way, so hopefully we can get that done in the next several days.
And according to the Cambridge Police Commissioner, the woman who made that call to 911 to report a break-in at Gates' home never reported the race of the men she saw. Russ?
Okay, Bianca Strolizano in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Thank you very much.
Okay. She didn't report on it, but she was asked twice. And she said that at least one of them looked like he could have been Hispanic. But again, she didn't answer the first time, and when the police officer asked her a second time, she had to respond what she thought. But she doesn't say which one she thought was Hispanic. And she didn't see the other one, but we don't know who she's seeing. Okay? So, I'll put that back. Okay. So all this, how do I handle situations like this now? Let me just open this. Okay, so this whole event with James Juanillo, the Filipino American fellow who was stenciling in chalk "Black Lives Matter" on the dwelling that he lives at for many, many years. How has it affected me? I'm more aware of what I do publicly. I feel at times like I'm on trial, like I have to prove myself that I'm an okay person, that I'm not a threat. So it has been putting a lot of pressure on me emotionally. I feel like I have to be conscientious how I dress. That I notice that certain clothing affects how I'm received by white people. I find like wearing like dark colors, unisex type of clothes doesn't do it that well. You have to dress a certain way. I find that wearing dresses, lighter colors or bright colors, very feminine looking clothing, I get a better response. But certain, unisex type clothing, avoid it if you can. I also feel that, I'm just looking at my notes here, have my phone on. Keep my phone in my hand and make sure I charge my phone because something may happen. I may see something or someone may encounter me, say something to me, and I have to protect myself. So I want to make sure that my phone is working and could be switched on right away because I may be forced to record to protect my life. And I hate that because I don't want to have to carry my phone in my hand, but I've been doing that. So, it's usually in my purse, but sometimes I feel I need to have it in my hand just in case. And that I don't want. I don't want to have to do that. I don't even want to have to carry a phone. I really don't. Also, what I've been doing, at least that I'm aware that I'm doing it, and I'm doing this for a reason, I make sure in my neighborhood, I want people to know who I am. I live in a big city. I live in New York City. And because we have so many people and a lot of turnover, people move in and out, police they may have to get new cops. So no one really knows everyone. It's not like a quiet town. It's a very, very busy area. So I make sure when I'm walking, when I see a cop, I say, "Hey, how you doing?" I make even the people with the machine guns, the officers with the police guns, those big guns. I say hello. I don't want to be intimidated by them, and I don't want them intimidated by me. I want the law enforcement to know who I am. I want them to be familiar with this face, that I live here, I have purpose here, I have my dogs here, I walk my dogs. I want them to know that I'm not a foreigner. I'm not an intruder. So if I see a police officer, the doorman, I'll say hello to the doorman. Different doorman when I'm walking past. I want them to know I'm not a stranger. Unfortunately, I live in a neighborhood where a lot of Black people are living on the streets. And the Blacks that do live in my area, many of them live in those hotels. The government buys these hotels to house. Many of the people who live there are former inmates, people with challenging backgrounds. Okay, and the people that live in the high rises, many of them are Caucasian or Asian. And so if you're a black person, you're usually living in those other dwelling places. And I'm fortunate enough to live in a nice high-rise building that, you know, they take care of the property. But again, I'm a black person, and that's all I am. And living in a place like this, you know, anyone could question me. The fear that things could turn against me, even though I've been living here since 2003, and this is 2020. So I'm nervous sometimes. I don't want to have to live like this, but I want to feel confident enough that if something is to happen to me, and if I cry out for help, I want people to know I'm not some stranger, and hopefully that they'll help me. Yeah, that's how it affects me. That's how I've been reacting. I mean, I've been mistaking for things, and I thought I was dressed okay, and someone mistaken me for being a homeless person. I was just sitting down. I was on 34th Street, sitting on the steps of this very large post office. It's a winter, and I was really dressed up. I had my snow boots, my snow pants, and a long coat. And I had my dogs with me, 2 of my dogs at that time. This was in 2012. And a woman walks up to me, and my dogs, I had the little water bowl for my dogs to drink water, because we walked about 3 miles, and so we were tired. And the sun was coming out, so it was getting warmer. I said, hey, let's just take a little break, sit down, give them their bowl of water, and I just catch my breath and enjoy some of the sun. And a woman walks up, and she puts money in my bowl. I laugh at it now. And puts money. She put $2 in quarters in my dog's water. I said, what are you doing? Oh, I'm sorry. And yes, it was a white woman. She was a European woman. And then she shared that she had just lost her dog and blah, 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 you know. So people could mistaken identity, and unfortunate, many of the people wearing those, you know, dark colors, many of them, unfortunately, are black women, homeless women, you know. So I have to be really aware of how I am perceived in my own neighborhood, because unfortunately, the people who are living on the street are black people. In general, that's what you see. The homeless are in general blacks. Mostly male, but you have some female. So I'm very sad. I mean, I'm born and raised here. I'm a veteran, and I don't want to feel like I'm forced out of my home. I'm feeling like that I'm not wanted, or I have to make excuse for what I am, and I always explain myself. But I feel like it's how do you say? It's imbalance. You know, I don't see anyone challenging white people's activities when they do certain things. But if you're a black person, it's not even person of color, it's black people. But even the video I showed with James Juanillo, he's a Filipino. Okay, and he felt he had to say what he said. And I can understand his frustration, very much so. So, yeah, so that's my thoughts. And I don't know. I asked for your opinion on this situation. How has these recent events of being racially profiled, such as with James Juanillo, or a couple of weeks back with Christian Cooper, known as the bird watcher, and the Amy Cooper who called the police on him. So what's interesting in that situation? See, Christian Cooper didn't stick around. Once she put the leash on her dog, did Christian Cooper said thank you, and then the video cuts, and I assume that's when he left. Yeah, he didn't stick around to discuss the matter with the cops, but he did post the video, and then his sister posted it on her account, and that's when the video went viral. Okay, so yes, the white couple who called upon James Juanillo, they did get fired from their job, which is something. So it's irony. Yeah, I hope this is a wake-up call. Again, the new situation with James Juanillo, I don't feel any safer or more comfortable because the white couple, got fired from their job. I don't feel any safer. I feel just as anxious and just as on my walking on eggshells about being misperceived for some things. Okay, so that's all that I want to say right now, and I said a lot already, and I would appreciate your comments below. What you would do, how has it affected your life with those instances of being racially profiled? Do you feel that you have to change your behavior to live where you live? If you are a black person living in a place where the people are other than that, let me know. Let me know how it's affecting you. So I thank you for listening, and enjoy your day. And I feel like I need to get some fresh air here. Yeah, it's getting late right now. Thank you again for listening. Take care. Let's all be safe, and take a deep breath so it doesn't affect us so much. Thank you again. Bye-bye.